Hello everyone, welcome to Data Precision with Shino, and we'll be looking at a Google Skills lab titled Google Cloud Fundamentals, Getting Started with Cloud Storage and Cloud SQL. So in this lab, we'll create a cloud storage bucket and place an image in it. We can also configure an application running in Compute Engine to use a database managed by Cloud SQL. So this is focused on Cloud SQL. So now for this lab, we can configure a web server with PHP, a web development environment that is the basis for popular blogging software. Outside this lab, we will use analogous techniques to configure these packages. We would also configure a web server to reference the image in the cloud storage bucket. So our objectives in this lab is to learn the following: to create a cloud storage bucket and place an image into it, to create a cloud SQL instance and configure it, to connect to the Cloud SQL instance from a web server, and to use the image in the Cloud Storage bucket on a web page. So our first task is to sign into the Cloud Console. For this lab, that's for each lab, we get a new cloud project and set of resources for a fixed time at no cost. So this is for someone who's doing it for the first time. So remember, we're going to open the Cloud Console button. Would have a time remaining on it. We'll have temporary credentials that we must use for this lab, and other information which are needed if needed to step us through the lab. So once we click open Cloud Console, remember we right click and open it in incognito window. That's if we're using Chrome browser, which we are here. And the lab spins up resources and then opens another tab that shows the sign-in page. Here's a tip: arrange the tabs in separate windows side by side. So if you see choose the account, click use another account. So that's if we have multiple accounts on the same device. Remember, we have a username and a password. Second task that we have to do is to deploy a web server virtual machine instance. We'll be using Compute Engine for that. We'll configure it with a web server, which is Apache, and necessary scripting for initial setup using a startup script. Next, we'll note the network identifiers. So let's start from the beginning. So here we start. So here our resources are being pulled together. So this is a new feature on Google Skills. So you have your lab setup and access on the right side, not on the left like before. So remember, this is our open Google Cloud Console button to start the lab proper. We'll open it in incognito window. So we may have to sign in, or it signs in for us. So it has signed in for us. Click we understand, and we also agree to the conditions. So here we'll go to agree and continue. Agreeing to the terms for Google. So now we are in on our cloud console. So just remember we have our period ID, our region, our zone here. So let's go down. So we can close this side for now. Remember we have our time left 1 hour 13 minutes. It's our maximum duration for the lab. So we've signed in already. This is the first task. We'll be going to our second task to deploy a web server virtual machine instance. So we go to navigation, compute engine, VM instances. So let's close this. Navigation, compute engine, VM instances. Next, we're going to click on create an instance. For the name, you're going to type in blog host. For region, US Central 1. For zone, US Central 1A. So create instance, our instance name, blog post. Remember for region is US Central 1 and for zone is US Central 1A. Next, machine type will be E2 standard 2. So here it is, E2. E2 standard 2. So select it, 2 standard 2. And see our monthly cloud cost. Now, next, we would in the left pane, we'll click on OS and storage. If the image shown is not Debian, we'll click to change it. So let's go to OS and storage. So we have Debian GNU Linux 12 bookworm. So it is what it is. So we're not changing it. Okay. So here it is. We're not changing it. So we won't need to click on change. So go to networking. In firewall, we allow HTTP traffic. Networking, allow HTTP traffic. So the next thing is in the left pane, we'll click on advanced. It's down here. So under advanced, in automation, we'll copy and paste the following script as our startup script. So there's a note here. Be sure to supply that script as the value of the startup script field. If we accidentally put in another field, it won't be executed when the VM instance starts. So remember, we have our description, we have our startup script. So we'll put it on the startup script. So next, we'll leave the remaining settings as their default and we'll click on create. So now we've created our instance. Remember our instance name is Blogspot. So be sure to supply what you've done. Let's check if our instance is running. So it's still coming up. The resources have been put together for our instance. So our instance is up. So you can see our instance name. Our status is check. Meaning instance is running. We have our internal IP. We have our external IP. We have our connect SSH. So now let's check. So on the VM status page, we copy the blog post internal and external IP to a text editor for use later in this lab. So let's copy this. So you can see copy to clipboard, copy to clipboard. So let's just create let's create that. Let's see notes. Okay, so copy this, paste it here. Same thing for internal IP. Copy it here. So next we have to Okay, so next, let's check if our progress is being monitored. So we've completed second task. So remember, we have about six tasks to complete. So now, next, we're going to create a cloud storage bucket using the gcloud storage command line. In this task, we'll use the gcloud storage command line to create a globally unique cloud storage bucket set location and upload a public image to it and make that object publicly readable. So all cloud storage bucket names must be globally unique to ensure that our bucket is unique. These instructions will guide us through how to give our bucket the same name as our Google Cloud project ID, which is globally unique. So cloud storage buckets can be associated with either a region or a multi-region location. This activity will associate our bucket with multi-region closer to region and zone that our lab or our instructors assigned us to. So in Google Cloud Console, top right, we activate Cloud Shell and we would follow the prompt. So let us go to within our Cloud Shell, then authorize. So once we do that, we'll enter our chosen location. So do that by we're picking the US because we have three options. In the Cloud Shell environment, the dev shell project ID environment contains our project ID. We enter this command to make a bucket named after our ID. So this is going to be our bucket name, which is our ID. So the first thing we do is to pick our location. The next is to create our bucket. Let's increase this font. So our bucket is being created. So our bucket has been created. So next, what we'll do is to we aren't asked to authorize, so we go straight ahead. Now we're going to receive an image from public accessible cloud storage location. So this is the image. So the image has been retrieved. Now we're going to copy that image into our newly created bucket. So our image has been copied. Now we're going to modify access control, that is IAM, of the bucket we just created, so it's readable by everyone. So you can see here it says gsutil ACL all users, so everyone has access to it without restrictions. Here it says Google Cloud recommends using gcloud storage CLI instead of gsutil, so they would soon be deprecating the gsutil just utility. So I think this is just open this in a new tab. Let's see what it is. This link. Let's see what it says here. Okay, so 32 messages. So let's check our so we can close this. Let's check our progress. Now the next task is to create the Cloud SQL instance. This task will create and configure a manage MySQL database instance using the Cloud SQL. We'll set up a user account and crucially authorize the external IP address of our future web server for connectivity. That's for network connectivity. So go to navigation, Cloud SQL. Let's go there. Now, navigation, Cloud SQL. Scroll down to the bottom, then click create instance. So let's click on this. Let's click create instance. So next, what we do is choose a database engine, select and choose my SQL. So here which is I've chosen my SQL. Then we choose a Cloud SQL edition. We click Enterprise, and for edition preset, we'll select Sandbox Enterprise. And for the edition preset, we pick Sandbox. So for instance ID, we type in log db, and for password, we type in this. Password, we type in this. Remember, it has numbers and characters. So for region, US Central 1. For zone availability, we select single zone. Like I said earlier, we have uppercase, lowercase, username must not be contained, and characters. So we said for zone, we select US Central 1, is already selected, and then single zone is already selected. We expand specify zones, and in primary zone, we select US Central 1A, selected. Then we note the following. This is the same region and zone into which we launched our blog host instance earlier. The best performance is achieved by placing the client and database close to each other. In customize our instance, we expand show configuration options. Here, customize your instance, we expand show configuration options. So next, We'll expand security and then click allow encrypted network traffic not recommended. Security, I'm going to select allow unencrypted network. Here it is, not recommended. So then we'll create an instance, wait for the instance to finish deploying and to take a few minutes. So now we're waiting for our instance to complete its deploying. It's going to take a few minutes. Let's see what's going on here. So you can see here that our instance is being created. This will take a few minutes while operation is running. We continue to view information about the instance. The Cloud SQL instance is integrated with Knowledge Catalog to enable better data discovery for developers. So there you can see information about our instance. You can see information here that our instance is being created. So remember, we can continue to wait. Or we can also configure user and connections. So from the SQL instances details page under connect to this instance, we would copy the public IP address of our SQL instance to the editor to use for later. So our instance is still being created. So we have to wait for the instance to finish deploying so we can get to configure our user and connections. So I think our instance has been created. So okay, so now let's look for the configure user, that is SQL instances details page under connect to this instance. Instances details page connects to this instance. So this is connect to this instance. We have the instances details here. Then we copy the public IP address. So this is our public IP address. Copy it. And next, code. In the left pane, we would let's just specify it as public IP address. Okay. External. So now let's go back. In the left pane, we click on users and click add user account. Here we're clicking on users. Next, we click on add user account. For username is log user. For the password, remember, then we click add to add the user account in database. Okay. So next, we say we should wait for the user, so you can see that the user account has been added. In the left pane, we'll click connections and then click networking tab and add a network. Connections, networking tab, then add a network. We offer the chance to choose between private IP connection and public IP connection. Choose public IP for this tab. Note, the add network button may be unavailable if the user account creation is not complete. So how should we complete? Add a network, public IP. Add a network, and public IP. So here's public IP. For the name, we call it web front end. For the IP, for network, type the SNI IP address of your Blogspot instance, followed by /32. So type in the SNI address, followed by slash 32. Okay. So be sure to use the ISO IP address of our VM instance by slash 32. Do not use VM instance internal. Do not use the same IP address shown here. Now click done to finish defining the authorized network and click save to save the configuration change. Done here first, and click on save. After the process is ongoing, it's completed. Let's check our progress. The next for task 5, we're going to configure an application in a compute engine instance to use Cloud SQL. In this task, we'll securely connect the Apache web server running on our VM instance to the Cloud SQL database by modifying the PHP application code. So, what is a PHP application code? So, the PHP is a server-side scripting language primarily used to build a dynamic web applications. Here's a breakdown. We have the basic syntax and structure, we have the sample application, and we have common PHP application components. So, navigation menu, compute engine, VM instances. In the VM instances, we're going to click on SSH. So let's go there. Application menu, compute engine, VM instances. Under VM instances, list, we'll click SSH. The SSH is in the row for our VM instances block close. And if prompted, we click on authorize. So here's our SSH here. Click on it. So we're being advised here to add a IAM user role. So here we are. So in our SSH session on block host, we'll change our working directory to document root web server. So the first thing, presently the directory we are on is home student. So change it. Now we can see our new directory, which is in blue. Now we're going to use nano text editor to edit the file index.php. So this is the script. So we're going to put this into our file. Note that in the later step, we'll insert our Cloud SQL IP address and our database password into this file. For now, we'll leave the file unmodified. So let's go back. Let's into nano, Mac, Control X, save, Y, and there's a PHP, enter. So now next, we'll Press Ctrl O and press Enter to save, which we've done. Ctrl X to exit now, which we've done. Then we start our web server. So copy this to start our web server. So our web server has been started. So we'll open a web browser and paste into the address our blog post VM external IP followed by slash ph index of PHP. So let's new tab or external IP slash index.php. So welcome to external blog, database connection failed, duplicate address. Okay. So we'll say be sure when we load the page, we see that the content includes an error message beginning with words. This message occurs because we have not yet configured PHP connection to our cloud instance. So we return to our SSH on Blogspot and use the nano editor to edit again and ensure that we are in the VARW of HTML. So let's go back there. So we're in that directory automatically. So let's go back there. So next, in the nano editor, we'll replace the cloud sleep with the Cloud SQL instance blog DB public address that we noted above, and we'll leave the quotation marks around the value in place. So our public IP address. Put there. So now in the editor, we'll replace the DB password with the Cloud SQL database password. So next, we'll start our web server. Now we'll return to the web browser, and when we load the page, the message will appear. Come back here. So let's refresh the page. So we're seeing the messages connected successfully. So in an actual blog, the database connection status would not be visible to blog visitors. Instead, the database connection will be managed solely by the administrator. Okay. Now, in this task 6, we'll configure an application in a compute engine instance to use a cloud storage object. In this task, we integrate the publicly accessible image stored in our cloud storage bucket into the web application by editing the index PHP file on the compute engine instance to include the correct image source URL. So in the Google Cloud console on navigation menu, we go to cloud storage and buckets. Navigation menu, cloud storage, buckets. We'll click the bucket that is named after our Google Cloud project. In this bucket, there's an object called My Excellence blog. So this is it. Here's the image, My Excellence blog, PNG. Copy the URL behind the link icon that appears in that public access column. So let's be sure. We'll also say public link if shown. Okay, this is it. Copy public URL, copy dedicated. Okay. So let's see what we're copying. Copy public URL. No, they've neither a link icon or public link. Try refreshing your browser. So let's see. Let's go down to the public access column. So this public access column, we'll copy the URL. So same as what we did earlier. Now we'll return to the OSS session on the instance. We'll enter this command to set our working directory to the document, the root document of our web server. Note if you see neither a link, try refreshing the browser. If you not see the link, return to the cloud shell and confirm attempt to change. So we don't need this. We've done that part already. Enter the command. So we're going to enter the command on our SSH session. Set our working directory to the root of our web server. So let's copy this. So we're changing directory. Still there. Now we'll go to use nano to edit the index.php. So what we're told to do now is to paste the HTML. Use the arrows to move the cursor to the line H1 element. Press enter to open a new blank line, and then paste the URL we copied earlier. So URL we copied earlier was here. Paste the HTML markup for the URL. Go to the line that has the H1. There, and hit enter. Next, we would paste the URL into that line. Next, we paste this HTML for the URL. Okay, this goes before the URL, that is. Yes. Okay, then place this quotation mark at the back of it. Okay. The resulting will look like this. The image source this. The effect of these steps is to place the line containing the image source immediately before the line containing the H1. What we've done. Do not copy URL shown above, which we did. So let's close Ctrl O, then enter to save our edited file. Then Ctrl X in an editor. So now we'll restart our web server again. Then return to web browser, open blog post. Let's see images there. In this lab, we configured an Cloud SQL instance, connected it to an application in a complete instance. We also worked with Cloud Storage Buckets. Let's end our lab and give it a rating. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.